This talk is about, rolling out a software like Maverick, rolling out really any software, but a software like Maverick that includes a layer of management and accountability is something that you really have to be thoughtful about. Both Marissa and I have had agents that love accountability and hate accountability. And the key here is, it's helping everybody get across the finish line, the easy ones and the difficult ones. Right, Marissa?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because this is also self-accountability as much as it is agent accountability. And so
Yes.
that part, right, when we first started using Maverick was like, whoa, like there was an actual visceral reaction from me when we first plugged it. And I was like, whoa, whoa, wait, this is on me too. So both
Yeah. And
sides.
yeah, I think, why agents resist and how we can win them over is really, I think, it's like, it's something that in the moment we're not aware of that's happening, and because we're not aware of it, we act out of either emotion or habit, and we really don't scale the way that we could had we been aware of the challenges. Like, how many times have we bought a new tool like Maverick, and a couple of agents, normally like 1% of your team or 2% of your team is excited about the thing, and then the rest of the team is like, ugh, another problem, another thing to log into, another thing to pay attention to, another alert. And it's really a scenario where agents are struggling with all the adoption, and getting them to use it is tough.
It is tough. And I remember at the time that we rolled out Maverick, I was so excited for Maverick, right? And I go to the call and I'm just like, you can feel it through the Zoom how excited I am. And I'm watching the faces on the other end and I'm like, they're not excited. And then so like, right, I'm getting more excited, but also a little panicked. I think that it was like fake excitement. It was like, oh gosh, okay, like we have to get them excited. And the exact feedback was, the last tool we did didn't work. It didn't launch. I spent all this time learning it, right? Like there's just so much. And so sometimes for us, from a leadership perspective, we're getting insight that we can't normally get. And we are so excited. And the agent is sitting there looking at you like, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I call it like, the people that sit behind the computer all day, they're normally excited about systems and computer programs and stuff like that. The people that are driving around with Taco Bell in one hand, their phone in the other, and hopefully somehow they're driving, safely, trying to schedule showings, overwhelmed, car is just a mess of paperwork. And that's the busy showing agent, the busy listing agent's life. Not for everybody, but for a lot of agents, that's their reality. So the thought of one more notification, one more login, they're just trying to make it through the day. And so being tactful in how you roll out accountability and new software is a really important topic that all team leaders everywhere need to be thoughtful about, for sure.
100%.
And and look, I mean, they complain about accountability, but anybody that wants to be successful in their craft, they are aware that they need some measure of accountability. It's really control. And I do think that there's a lot of toxic accountability in the sales world and real estate world specifically, where the team leader is just kind of wanting to be the boss, and they want to yell at people and they want to tell them what to do. And so figuring out the line between that toxic control and genuine accountability is really the secret sauce that I think Maverick helps a lot with.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that the other, like, one of the biggest things is we want to see the agents win, of course, right?
Sure.
Like they win, we win, everybody wins. And I think that a tool like Maverick, when it's deployed the proper way, and an agent can actually start to see, okay, they really care about the win, my win, right? And they really care about my growth. And I think that when you roll out Maverick, or I know that when you roll out Maverick the right way, that's 100% what happens.
Hmm.
Versus my original rollout, which was like, this is so amazing, it's going to be great, da, 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 boom, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and I think at this stage in my career, the word alignment is
Yeah.
one of the most important aspects of running a successful business, whether it's my management team, whether it's a business partner, whether it's one of my agents. I'm actively looking for authentic alignment to where we have a shared interest in accomplishing whatever it is. I don't care how good the money is. I am not interested in pulling someone across the finish line. And so finding how my goal can align with my agent's goal really defines how you communicate the new platform to your team. Because agents, if they're feeling supported, coached, and equipped, adoption is effortless. But when they feel like they're an island, like just last week I had an agent that it was his first full week on the team, and the management team was out of town. I was out of town. And he didn't get any help. And he realized after a week, I hate calling leads, and wants to stay affiliated with us somehow, but is not interested in calling leads. And I think it's actually because nobody was there to kind of metaphorically hold his hand through the upstart, because he had been an agent for 2 years, never called a lead before, and now he's on an island, right? And that's a lesson that I think I relearned just recently. It's important, but if they're just if they're just being watched and constantly told how they're failing, they feel judged. And we got to remind ourselves, our salespeople are facing rejection multiple times a day. Like literally, they're asking people out on a real estate date 20 times a day if they're prospecting all day, and they're getting told no normally. And so if we're not there to kind of hold them up through this process, especially when they suck, like if they suck and the program says that they're bad on the phone, the play here is not to call them and be like, hey, you suck, because now I'm just another rejection.
100%.
So,
Well, and I think too, like
yeah.
to your point, Barry, if we are only showing up when we aren't hitting the mark,
Mm,
right? And if we're only showing up when, something's wrong, I think that's the other side of this. And so Maverick, like the rollout of it, or the botched rollout on rollout
yeah.
number one,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
taught us that we need both. Like we need to
Right.
celebrate the win and we need to celebrate the coach. Like we have to talk about both. And I think that prior it was like, okay, well, this nudge went out 6 times and you didn't do anything, or this call grade was whatever. And to your point, there's so much shame loaded into just the daily phone calls that when we show up and we're like, well, blah, 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 about whatever topic,
Right.
right, of the day, they're like, oh my gosh, I just can't win. And then all of a sudden you start to hear, like, it's interesting because we were listening to calls and I could hear it even on live transfer calls. I could hear it in their voice. They picked up, like, oh, here we go again, right? Like, just a very not positive experience all the way around if we don't do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's tough. Like, I had, it was an agent named McKenna that, you know, had big goals and wanted to make a lot of money. Money was tight, and she got a call in the middle of the day from management and was like, "Hey, wanted to check on you. Your numbers are down. Wanted to see what's going on." And she was just like, "Oh, I'm just cuddling with my cat today. I'm just hanging out. And of course, I change the names to make it not. I'm not trying to tell on any of my agents, but you know the difficulty in that moment for me was I wanted to be like, well, this is why you're broke. Like
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to say. And I don't know what this person was dealing with at the time, but she talked about her cat for a while. Like, I don't know. It felt like forever. It was probably only 3 minutes, but like the degree of patience I had to keep, because she was sharing an aspect of her life that was important to her, and that in that moment the cat was meeting some need for her and she wasn't working. And for me, I wanted to understand why someone that needed money elected to not work in the middle of the day. And so instead of being angry, I asked questions. I was like, hey, I totally get it. You know, if you have a pet that is supporting you, I don't even remember what I said because it was really, really hard. And that's the point I want to make here is resistance is not always about like, you know, outright, I'm not going to do this. You know, a lot of times with salespeople, resistance is very subtle. And, you know, what's motivating her in that moment is actually more important than what's on the surface. So I could focus on the cat, but really I want to get to the heart of the issue. I want to find out. So look, I love that for you. I love that the cat is there for you. I'm curious, you know, what are your goals for the week? You know, where do you want to be? What does that look like? How are you going to accomplish it? And through the course of the conversation, by giving her space to kind of express what she was dealing with in the moment, she had had a bad client earlier in the day and it was difficult. And so she was kind of regrouping. Totally legitimate to be like, I got to take a break. Like that was horrible. And then we were able to get her refocused the very next day and she was able to dial in and meet her goals. So the idea here is, you know, to find out what we're doing as leaders when we feel opposition on a rollout of management, accountability. How do we reach them? And Marissa, you know, with your agents, you know, I know that you get resistance in all kinds of ways. Like you're in the north, you know, you know.
Yeah, I get resistance that I didn't even know I hadn't heard, right?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
have all sorts of new resistance. And I think that one of the things that has really popped up is that there is a massive resistance to any level of change. And when I say that, it could be as simple as we're on Zillow Leads today and we're introducing YLOBO's new pay-per-click program tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? Or we're rolling something out with LSA. And in my mind, my very high driver, very sales oriented mind, I'm like, heck yeah, give me all the leads, right? I'll figure out how each new one, and they're all nuanced differently. And so every time we announce new lead source, it's like, oh, great, I'm gonna have to go to this training and learn this thing. And so resistance comes out going, I don't even know if I like the leads that we have,
Right, right.
right? Like an agent called me yesterday and she said, these leads, I know they're good. I know it's a good opportunity. I hate them. And I was just like, and I had to count to 10. I said, hey, can you just give me 1 second? And I muted
Right,
the phone and I
right.
said my piece. Like I had my moment
Sure.
because not worth going with
Yeah.
her. Right. And then I
Yeah.
came back and I said, so really quickly, this is the first time I've heard this. Could you tell me what happened today to
Uh-huh.
make you change your mind? Because yesterday we were fine. I didn't say that to her.
Uh-huh.
Just, yesterday I'm thinking like we're good. You set 3 appointments. Well, so we turned on a new lead source and she didn't like that. Like this particular agent, for whatever reason, does really poorly with anything that is like ALM scripted,
Okay.
right? Like she does much better with like a PPC lead than she
Hmm.
does Zillow, Realtor,
Interesting.
Movoto, right? And so it was all around that entirely. And it comes out as a perspective of I hate these leads, just take me off, right?
Hmm.
Or they're not working. Or, one of my personal favorites, the open house. Like, why would I do that? Like I have to set up things. That
Right.
was resistance in a different way, right? And so you
Sure.
have to hear it because instantly, like your trigger reaction, or mine at least, is very like, what are you talking about? You sell houses. Like this is an opportunity to sell.
Right, right. Well, you know, something that I remind myself quite frequently that I think everybody, as you're hearing, first of all, Marissa, you're a fantastic storyteller. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that before, but like, just so good.
Thank you.
I felt the emotion. Um, uh,
You felt
I,
me like, what?
yes, yes, yes. Because I work with you in other settings, so I just can imagine. Anyway, you know, it's really the great dichotomy of being a team leader because it's I'll just be candid. It is lazy of us to merely complain that our salespeople are not doing their job. And the main reason for this, guys, hear me when I say this. If they were like us, if they were driven and capable of doing it on their own, they would not be on your team. If you hear my voice right now and you're a team leader and I moved into your market and I said, "Hey, I'm new here," like Marissa, "Hey, I'm new to the area. I know we've worked together at Wailopo, but for a little while I want to join your team." And I would join your team. And once I get my revenue established, I would say, "All right, listen, this has been great. I appreciate you, but I am going to go do this on my own now." And so our value proposition to our sales org is that they need us to come alongside of them to get the job done. And so to complain that we are needed to help them to get the job done represents a fundamental misunderstanding of our value proposition to our sales team. We
Exactly.
are valuable to people that need our direction, support, leads, all of it. So we just need to stop complaining when we hear it. And I know, I've been there, Marissa, that story of having to count to 10. I feel that so deeply because it is hard because they're so different than us in that moment.
They are. And I'm thinking, like, the first thing that comes into my mind, and probably anyone listening, you're like, "Do you know what I spend on these?" And you're telling me, right? Like, you're just like there's just and you have to take that step back. And I think it shows up too with the AI sales coach, right? Like, we had a huge, huge push on that from the perspective of agents. I think when they knew that we were going to be listening or seeing the feedback, right? And
Yeah.
so when we were able to remove that barrier and teach them that it was a tool, like same agent, okay, so we're Maverick on this team as well, same agent, not surprising, um, right? Does not want to utilize it. And so we have now implemented that, and you heard me say this the other day, 20 calls with a score of 9 or higher
Uh-huh.
before we can turn you on to a lead source, be it portal, PPC, whatnot. And the resistance when you guys try to implement that will sometimes show up as, "I don't want to talk to an AI,"
Mm-hmm.
or "I don't," right? And so when we have to start listening for what is resistance and what is like an actual real opinion or thought, right? Because
So good.
typically it's not like they don't really care about
Right.
the AI. They care about something to do with, maybe you've had rough coaching calls around their conversations before. Maybe they got taken off of a lead source because of, those conversations or what they weren't doing. And so anytime that we kind of spotlight those things or we make any change to that, it's more resistance and it's typically out of fear or it's out of lack of understanding, right? And I always have to remind myself of that,
Yeah.
like every day, a lot.
Yeah, no, and I think, look, there's different kinds of sales teams. I think there's some people that hear us talking about this and they're like, "Well, if they don't do the job, I'll get rid of them." And
Yeah.
look, that's your prerogative as a team leader. Like, no, I've just found that there are less people. You have to make the business decision that you're going to have a revolving door
Yes.
if you want to function that way, and that's totally fine. But I kind of have this alignment theory that if I can get people and align with them and figure out how to come alongside them, I'm going to get not only a better version of them, but the quality of my team is going to continue to get higher, which means that, like, right now with the new team that I just started, the nucleus is fantastic. I mean, I've gone from them calling, a very small amount per week when we started to a significant amount per day. And they're bought into what we're doing and they're focused on it and they're closing deals, and it's a repeatable income source for me. And it's almost entirely leads from Google and Facebook, which requires, like, if you're a Zillow team and you hear me, I think that you have a unique opportunity because if you don't meet X, Y, and Z, you're off of leads. And the leads are so good. Like, let's be
Hmm.
honest, the leads are so good, you can do that. You can be like, "You're not approved for this." The challenge, though, is that, there's compression of revenue there, right? Like, if you're having to do a lot of volume to maintain your business and your revenue flow, whereas with PPC, the ROI is significantly higher, but it does take this type of work where you're kind of coming alongside your agents and helping them to get the job done.
Yeah. And I think that there's so many different schools of thought, Barry, to your point. Like, you have to be willing. For me, at this team, my old team was the revolving door concept, right? It was
Uh-huh.
great. We'll find another one. And I'll tell you, that has its own burn at a certain point in time. And
Hmm.
what I didn't realize was that I was so burnt out by it, I had to take a year off between
Right.
the launch of that team and the new one.
Yeah.
Kind of define like what did I really want? And
Uh-huh.
so for me, I would say that there's a middle. Like
Yes.
I'm okay with someone not being here, especially if they're not someone who identifies as wanting to have, like, we're a lead team, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big component. But I do think that there are big decisions to be made before you utilize a tool like Maverick. Like, who am I as a
Yeah.
team owner? And kind of who am I catering to? Because you'll be having these resistance conversations constantly if
Totally.
there's something wrong in that messaging.
Right. It's all
Or
about,
I just have one agent.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, agent count alone is not the measure of whether your business is successful.
Yeah.
For me, is like, I just very simply, am I making the money that I need to make? Like that's really what and so the other people might be, am I making an impact? And I totally respect that. I've just decided that the revenue that I receive allows me the freedom to do the things that I want to make an impact in the ways that I want to make, in life, right? So when we start to roll this out, I kind of have like these processes, and the first step for me when I'm rolling out Maverick is to basically bring awareness. Hey, I'm going to add this new tool to start to bring awareness to the organization of where what we're doing well and where we have opportunities for growth. Right. And so for me, early on, it's all about awareness to helping them make more money. So rolling out, the fact that I can programmatically see what all of my salespeople are doing, right?
Mhm.
Through the Maverick integration with Follow Up Boss, all of the calls are being graded. I don't have to listen to calls anymore. And so, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to have AI creep on every call that you're doing and I'm going to know everything you're doing, I'm going to say, hey, you guys are talking to people every day and I want to make sure I bring awareness to you on ways that you can just make more money every time you talk to a call, right? And so then as I tell them we're just bringing awareness, as I ease into it, it's really about how do I manage the data. I have found that if I can use numbers to illustrate the areas of weakness that they have. So instead of listening to one call and being like, you sucked on that call, right? I can look at themes over weeks of consistently agents that are working hard and having conversations or not, but in this case, having conversations that are never leading to an appointment at a house or in the office.
Yeah.
That's a performance issue. And when I highlight the fact that my heart is to help them make more money, I have just found that there's an increase of acceptance to something like this.
100%. And I think too, one of the things that's really been advantageous to us is that, again, even though these are scored and they are listened to, when they are in the moment, like if we can get them to understand, like this is a one-on-one, this is you and the AI, right? You're not talking to me, you're not talking to someone on the team. This isn't like a script partner. This is a place for you to be able to go and learn. Right. And by the way, this AI is going to throw you the best objections I've ever heard in my life. You will be so well armed to go talk to humans because most of them don't even have the knowledge to object to the things that this is objecting to, right? This is skill building for you. And by the time you get in front of people, you're going to be like, oh, this is a piece of cake. And that's worked really well for us, kind of overcoming that. And to the point where they'll call me and be like, I just did 10 sales calls. Can you go look at them? Like they get
Mhm.
really excited,
Yeah.
right? And they're proud of themselves. Or I just did 10 and my first three totally sucked, but look at how much better I did as I went. And I think that like the second that we were able to start reflecting back with them, right? Like, what do you feel went well? What do you feel, needs improvement? That took some of that out of it. Like, it took the, oh gosh, you're listening out of it. And so now the other thing that I've done is I will do them and I will share with them how I did. Because my first few I fumbled too because they're different, right? And then it's like, oh, and Barry, you've done them live on calls, right? It's a
Yep.
very different. So when we show that, it makes our management of it a lot easier.
Absolutely. And a lot of my approach recently has been based off of the book Atomic Habits. And you see in this at the bottom, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. You know,
Yeah.
goals relying on motivation. Motivation is fickle. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It really is. But when you have systems in place with, I need you to meet a specific goal. Like right now, my agents that are consistently not getting a certain percentage of conversations to appointments, like I'm prescribing them calling the sales coach in Maverick, like, hey, I need you to do this 5 times this week or whatever so that I can get you to where you need to be. And then, they do it and they report back on the results and they're effectively getting incrementally better. And, I watch pretty consistently agents that are the most, I air quotes, annoying in the beginning. So the first 60, 90 days, they ask lots of questions. Those are the ones that end up making the most money. And so bringing the management or the awareness in gives space for you to manage with compassion, reminding them of their goals. And then there's this crisis moment that pretty consistently occurs where the income goals and the gap that they're seeing in their daily practice of prospecting or performance in some way, you get to have an honest conversation with them that actually helps them accomplish what it is that they want to do.
Exactly.
And the analogy that I use, in my fitness journey, I've over the last 3 years, I lost 30 pounds of fat and then added 30 pounds of muscle. And it's not normal to be in your 40s and change your body composition. We're kind of like, we are what we are. And I've kind of undergone this transformation. And one of the key things for me is I hired a trainer. I only meet with the trainer now once a week. It used to be 2 to 3 times a week. But now the trainer every 90 days is having me go through this body scan where it analyzes, all my muscle growth in my entire body, where my fat is, what my, percentages are, super dialed in very specifically. And then what he does is he changes my programming based off of the scan. I am never in a comfortable position in the gym. When I used to work out on my own by myself, I would just do the same stuff because it was a routine, and I was there and whatever. Now I'm like consistently miserable for an hour.
Yeah.
And he never lets me get into that flow. And it's a result of him knowing, like just my programming changed yesterday. And he's like, all right, we worked on, the upper chest for a while. Now I'm going to shift. We're going to blow your shoulders out, to give you this like tapered thing. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't even pay attention. I trust him and I just do the work. And I always end up doing really weird exercises that nobody else in the gym is using with like rubber bands. And it's just, but I like the result. Maverick can be the body scan for your salespeople, but gaining that trust for the first 6 months with my trainer, it took a lot of faith for me because I was not only miserable, but I wasn't seeing any gains.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like Mr. Miyagi, like, when he was having Daniel wax on and wax off, and Daniel was like, why are you having me wax your cars? By the way, Mr. Miyagi had a lot of cars. I watched
He
the
did.
movie again. It was like a lot of cars.
A lot of cars. Yeah,
And
we watched it like recently and I don't remember that. And it stood out to me too. I was like, Jesus, a lot of cars.
but he was learning how to block, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what he was doing. And so for us, the Maverick, it's a two-part thing. Like basically, yes, you've got to get the system rolled out, but then the other aspect is as the manager, you actually have to be involved. And I believe firmly that large companies, and again, no disrespect to companies like Zillow, I wish I would have thought of the idea, but they understand deeply their value proposition.
Yeah.
They know that consumers trust their brand. And so now they're like, all right, agents, we're going to have you do less and less and make it easier and easier and easier on you. And again, I feel like I need to restate it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if a manager decides to buy leads that aren't ready, and if you can stay involved, you can increase your return on investment significantly, and Maverick helps you do exactly that. And I think this is kind of like that missing piece for a lot of us, Marissa, where we're kind of following the path of least resistance. And this is kind of a call to get back involved, roll your sleeves up, and start helping your people.
This reminds me. So we have a very stringent 90-day plan when an agent starts with us, and it lives in the format of a checklist because I think that if you give it any other way, it just isn't direct enough. And so it's
Yeah.
like day one, boom, 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 right? Day two, boom, boom, boom. So this was probably about 3 years ago, and I've used the same one for 8 years. This an agent called me. It's probably more like 5 years ago now. My concept of time
It's
as a
okay.
team owner is like, anyway.
It's hard when you're only 25, Marissa. I get
It
it.
is, it is, yeah. And my 25th birthday keeps happening, and so I don't know. It's going Groundhog Day. So, so he called me one day and he said, "I'm tired of this list." And I said, "Okay, could you tell me why you're tired of the list? It's the same thing every day. And I'm on day, 42, and I'm on call number 50. I've done, and I said, wait, 50." And he said, "Yeah, I've done 50 calls today." And I said, "Well, that's a little above what we were talking about on the list, but okay, keep going." And he said, "And I'm tired, and I've done this every day, and it's not moving the needle, and nothing's happening." And keep in mind, this is all PPC. And like on our team, the first 90 days, that's where you live. You live in ponds of aged leads, right? So
Hmm.
he's calling 50 people a day. Now, I know what's happening, and I know what's going to happen. And I know he is this close to the lid just coming off of this thing,
Yeah.
right? And this is pre-Maverick, by the way. And he says to me, I mean, it was long. He spoke a novel at me. And I said to him, and I said, "That is great. Can you do just one more call for me?" And he's like, "Did you not listen?" And I said, "I just need you to do one more call, one, and then call me back and we'll coach on it." Okay. Does one more call. And then I don't hear from him. It's been like 30 minutes when Grady quit, right? Like that's where we're at. I get a text about 45 minutes later. "I know you said to call you right back. I've made 15 more calls and I've set 3 appointments."
Wow.
And I said, "What do you think the mindset difference was?" And he said, "You told me to do just one more." And he's like, "I'm in competition with myself." And I was just really tired.
Ah.
And I was so over it. And there was nobody competing with me because nobody else on the team would be willing to make the amount of phone calls I was willing to make. So he felt lonely,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
so I have given them what your trainer gave you in the beginning, and it's
Yeah.
monotonous and it's boring and it's whatever it is. And he's sitting there alone in the gym essentially and is just like, "Screw this." And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden that kind of gave him the fuel. And he's like, "I was so mad that you were like, just go do one more." Like after all the words, right? He became the biggest Maverick adopter. He became the largest producer on the team. And
Wow.
now he is at a downline type of company, building one of the largest networks inside of the company. And so I say that to say, and he is such a firm believer. He still uses the 90-day plan, by the way. He called me and was like, "Hey, can I R&D this?" Absolutely. Right. And so that reminded me of we are the physical trainer, and it's designed to, number one, identify that guy, but also identify the ones that aren't willing to do what Barry you're willing to do in
Yeah.
the gym. Like you're willing to
Right.
go to the gym and look like a complete bozo with your bands, right?
Yes.
Same as
Yes.
me. Like I'll do exercises at the gym that I know people at the gym are like,
Right. But you got to do
I
what you
mean,
got
I
to
had a
do.
lady ask me, I was doing RDLs just way differently with a bench, and she was like, "I feel like that's way more effective." I said, "It is, just try." And she went through and did her sets and she goes, "Oh my God, the difference." And I was like, "See,
I love that. I love
it's
that.
the same thing."
Right. Absolutely. So, you know, Atomic Habits says you can't change a behavior that you can't see, right? And so we tend to hide in the, oh, my schedule or this, that, and the other. And what Maverick allows us to do is really to see everything. Appointments. Appointments are so important. And, now with having Maverick and all of the appointments, when they don't update the outcome, like, pretty consistently, I was watching as agents were having appointments. We've got a problem on our team right now. About 40% of the appointments our ISA is setting the are no showed. And so we've rolled out some new processes there. But what I was watching is not only was there a ball being dropped on appointment reminders, and we did script training on that, on how to handle that. But then I also found that because they were annoyed that, Mary Williams didn't show up for the appointment, they weren't updating the outcome because it was a negative outcome. They got a no-show. And so now we created a list just for that, for all of our non-appointment, because those are people that a lot of magic had to happen to get them to the point to commit to meet with us. And now we're kind of like dropping the ball on the 1 yard line, and we could be scoring touchdowns, to use a football analogy, and we're just kind of dropping the ball. But if I didn't have the awareness of what was taking place in my business, I couldn't do that. And I don't know if Maverick's, the company, is going to like that I'm about to say this, but I don't log into Maverick every day. I log in weekly, maybe bi-weekly, to look at overarching trends of how I should be managing my organization. And it really has had a profound impact in many ways, just like that, where I'm like, ooh, we got to fix that. And it makes the training more relevant. And most of all, it increases revenue. And so being able to see that is important.
They actually took away my assistant was like, you can't look at it every day, because in the beginning, when we first turned it on, Barry, it was such a humbling experience that I would sit there and just like, as my kids would say, crash out over the level of, right. And so we have I look weekly. I do open it though for like right after this, I'm going to sit with a newer agent who's on the AI sales coach. And so I'll open it and kind of go through with her.
Mm-hmm.
I use it very spot specific, like agent specific.
Mm-hmm.
But I look overall every week because I found that I obsess sometimes over certain numbers. And so it's better for my obsession to see a trailing week versus like a minute in a day.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge. And so then, and you kind of already alluded to this, but, after you bring awareness, that's when we go in and we actually start managing the data, right? This is where, when you're doing your one-on-one with an agent, the one that bothers me the most is the lead called my agent back and my agent never called him back. So then I can see that in the rules and alerts system inside of Maverick, and I can say, hey, Michael, when Mrs. Smith called you, I don't see, it's been 5 days, I don't see where you called him back. Can you help me understand what happened? Oh, I don't know. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, you get a nudge alert, and every time that you don't do what you're supposed to, it's added in the list. So you could have seen, so we have a smart list that basically we call it out of compliance. So any lead that has the tag Maverick Nudge Outstanding is in that list. And because I was watching where agents were calling new leads, they were nurturing their leads in their name, and they were calling their priority stuff, they were leaving the out of compliance. I've actually now baked in to our KPIs every week very specific standards. One of those standards, and I feel like I'm being generous, if they have more than 30 leads out of compliance, they are ineligible for priority lead routing the next week, because I wanted them watching it. Now, what I saw happen in my organization is that they just, because they're clearing out all of their out of compliance while they're there. They're not like, all right, I had 35, now I've got 30, I'm not going to worry about it. They're watching that list, and that's the idea. Maverick is looking at 17 different rules for me, and I'm getting them bought into the missed opportunities. And it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, and then, once we've brought awareness, we've managed the data, this is where I really try to keep their goals in mind. You said you wanted to make 200,000. I built a system that gets you there. I've shown you the data. I've given you the plan, and you're still not moving, right? So aligning the conversation about their failure with the revenue that they want to make per year, for us, it's a situation where, it really helps the agent to understand what's needed. And it gets them to actually, do the job, because they're like, oh yeah, I did say I wanted to make $200,000. And so you're just bringing that back up. And I've got it to the point now where, they're high level goal of revenue is broken down into very specific daily actions. As long as they do these very specific things, they're able to accomplish the job. So let's see. Um, you know, this is tough for a lot of people. Taking leads is an act of compassion, right? And so, what I've started to do is when agents have leads that are out of compliance, persistently, normally after 60 days of using Maverick, we see where there's just a lot of failure, a lot of agents that are not doing their job, that are not calling, and they have like 300 leads in their name, and they're overwhelmed. And so what we started to do was just say, look, we're going to reduce this list of leads in your name. I want you to figure out the ones that you actually want to hold on to. If you were to close 30 of these this year out of your 300, would you make the money that you want to make? And let's say they're used to doing 20 deals a year from their sphere, and then they do 30 off the leads. Let's say that number adds up to 250,000 and their goal was 200. Yeah, Barry, that would be great if I could close 30. Okay, well, you have 350 leads in your name. And so what I want to do is I want to reduce the noise for you. I want you to take them out of your name. Let's get the people that you never connected with or they're never buying. Let's move them into a different category so that you can just focus on finding the 30 that you're actually going to make money off of. Now, I'm not saying we reduce their list to 30, but just, as an illustration. And so in that moment, me taking leads from them is not punitive. It actually feels like I'm doing them a favor. And I know it's going to come one day, but I've actually never, by the third month, I've never had an agent feel like I was punishing them. Normally what they say is, I really appreciate this because I was so overwhelmed by all of this. And you're giving them the gift of clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's pushback. It's interesting because I think prior to this, we didn't have a lot of rules. We did somewhat have rules around like how many leads you could pull out of a pond into your own system, but it was harder to get eyes on. So like, a team the size that we were running, it's like, okay. And there was one agent that had a few hundred, similar, it was actually like 500. And it's interesting because we had AI text and voice on there and we were surfacing that people had bought, right? And again, it wasn't like a blame session, but it was very much looking at the activity on the leads over a period of time because you cannot, as an agent, effectively communicate with that many. You just can't, right? And so, to your point, Barry, like this is the goal. If we can get you to that goal with these numbers, right? You've spoken to actually 62 of these it was like 496. You've spoken to 62 of them. What does your world look like if all you focused on
Right.
was the 62 of them and we put the rest of these back out for someone else to focus on and maybe they come back to you later, right? Like
Right.
maybe we
Right.
replace them. So we had a limit of 75 just because they were PPC
Sure.
on what somebody could have at that point. But there were times that it's like, by hoarding the lead, you're not doing yourself or the lead any favors. And as much as it pains me to see, we just purchased, which is another moment that I have to put a mute on and shut my video off if I'm on video and take 10 seconds, maybe 30. That's one of those situations where it's like we can alleviate that from happening because what was happening was she was seeing that and it was triggering the shame response and then back to the cat story of like, oh my God, I suck at this. I'm just done for the day.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so by limiting kind of what she had, we were able to not have that happen anymore. And she felt like she was winning.
I love that. I love that. And so, yeah, look, the rollout, you know, Maverick actually works because you're helping with accountability. You're using data to hold them accountable. How you deliver it, the structured accountability, building new habits, that's what helps build that strong, strong culture. Accountability shouldn't be random, right? It shouldn't be only when you're in a bad mood. You should wake up and actually decide when you roll this product out with Maverick that you're going to hold agents accountable today. Effective accountability is intentional, structured, and embedded into leadership. and the way that you express it, we've got some phrases here you could use. I want you to be the best that you can be. You've trusted me as your advisor. I'm here to help you grow, right? Your success is my success. I want to share in the success of your business. One of the ways that I'm going to do that is by holding you accountable. Maverick reinforces accountability, creates structure and support, and helps leaders guide into more opportunity. So it's not just a tracking tool, it's an income partner, right? So leading with oversight, not just management, but actually oversight, right? What we want you to do is lead with revenue. I'm going to help you make more money. You said you want to make more money. This is a problem. And normally what I do is I remind them of how hard they're already working. So instead of saying you're not working hard enough, I say, I know that you're working hard and I know that you're not seeing revenue. And it's because of based on the data, these are the two reasons that you're not making money. You're not calling leads back and you're not asking to meet for face-to-face appointments. I need you to call leads back. Do you know where the list is? I need you to ask for the appointment. Why are you not doing it? Help me understand why you're not asking to meet with them. And in this example, I'm thinking about when I had that conversation with one of my agents, they literally said to me, well, they're not ready for 6 months. Why would I meet with them? And I'm like, I am so glad you brought that up, because that means you fundamentally misunderstand everything that I've taught about setting up the buyer consult appointment. So now, in light of this issue that the data is representing, let me go over what we taught you early on about how you should be getting buyer appointments to equip your clients, because two things are going to happen. One, they're going to see value in you, and two, you're going to accidentally speed up the process. Had I not had that conversation with them, candidly, they would have just burned out. They would have been like, oh, this isn't working for me. I need to go do something else, right? And so having that income partner mindset is super important. Awareness, again, awareness is key, right? I like a 90-day sprint. You don't have to follow my playbook, but I like month one is, hey guys, just watch it. Just see the alerts. It's going to point to some stuff. Don't worry about it. Month two is, hey guys, I've been watching this. I'm noticing there's some things here that I think we can become better. So I'm going to bring them up in this meeting. Let's go over it. Month three is, hey, John, last month I taught you about how you guys weren't calling your leads back. I still see there's 4 leads that called you yesterday. You never got back to them. Can you help me understand what's going on? So what happens is you go from this high level awareness, management and awareness, and then there's the moment of disconnect. When you roll this out this way, your first 90 days, you're going to find a higher measure of adoption and success, and it's not going to feel like high pressure environment. You're actually going to get buy-in from them where they're going to start to appreciate it. And
agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I did this the second time. And now this time on this team, right? So we're learning, and I would just, this is invaluable, guys. If you are on 100%, take a photo of this, because if you roll it out the way that my high D personality rolled it out, it's like, why does nobody like it?
I almost spilt out my coffee, or spit out my coffee.
And then you'll be coming to Barry and I being like, this doesn't work. And we'll be like, oh, you did it Marissa's way, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this whole webinar, if I was to distill this, it's basically, software can do a lot.
Yes.
But we really have the ability to make software like Maverick into an income machine if we roll it out correctly. And I know for me, because I trust my trainer, when he says, man, what have you been eating? Why do you ask? Well, your belly got bigger. Like, it's at the point now where, because we have alignment on our goal, I appreciate those conversations. And I think you can get there with your agents. You just have to really be mindful of it. And, for me, I've got a lot of examples of agents in my career that I helped them go from broke, struggling, new in the business, to where I'm really proud to say that a lot of these people that I've coached over the years now are running their own businesses, similar to what Marissa was saying, where they took what I taught them and they built something amazing as a result. That's a badge of honor that I wear, that I had an impact on people. And so I see the best in others. It's a good and a bad thing in some ways. Like this is why I don't hire on my own. I try to have somebody else meet with people because I can see the potential in them. But I just recently had an agent, Mitch, that he'd been in the business for 25 years, and he called me and he said, Barry, I didn't know you were in Virginia Beach. I was on one of your trainings, webinar that I did for some I don't even remember who I did it for. And he said, do you mind if I meet with you? I met with them, and he's like, I want to join your team. He's 78. 78. He's like, I want to jump in. I've never learned real estate this way. I'm so excited about it. I said, sure, come on. 2 months in, he was calling like 3 people a week. And I was like, Mitch, like, I'm trying to align what you told me and what I'm experiencing, and these two things don't match. Can you help me understand the disconnect? And long story short, he had reasons that he wasn't calling people. He misunderstood. Like if somebody called him 2 days ago, he thought maybe he shouldn't bother him. Well, like I changed it, and now each week he's got 5 to 10 face-to-face appointments a week. The guy's crushing it. And he actually called me and said, hey, thank you for being hard on me. Thank you for, not letting me just kind of be average and challenging me to get the job done. And that's what it's all about here, actually having an impact in other people's lives. And, Marissa, I'd love for you to share your thoughts. I'll end with this from my end. I tell people that I am not looking for people to work for me. I'm looking for business partners. And I want to treat them like a business partner. I don't want to call them in the morning and say, are you doing your job? And I tell them, if that's what you need from a leader, I'm not a good fit for you, because I need you to find your own motivation, and I will give you all the tools that you need. So, and I'm sure you've done a lot of the similar things.
I'm very much on that page. We started the other way, and what it takes out of me or out of you as a leader to try to drag somebody across the finish line, it's not possible. Like it's like taking your own energy and exerting yourself 10 times over, right? And you're doing that for everybody, and you can't. And so same thing, Barry, like we call our agents partners because in my mind they are, right? We're providing the systems and the tools. They're bringing their talent to get in front of these people, right? Like I'm not making the calls. I mean, I'm making some, but I'm keeping that, right? I'm in production too. And so I think the biggest thing for me is this is a partnership, 100%. And what that looks like is we are both putting in our subject matter expertise, right? Me with the systems, the tools, and how to convert, you with the real estate license, the boots on the ground, and the ability to get in front of these people. And so, if at any point either one of those things comes out of alignment, we don't have a partnership or a business together, right? And so, that's how we've really approached this with newer people. I've got, there's 6 on the team right now, and there are 2 that will not make it. We're in the middle of those conversations, right? And I'm a big fan of love them out, right?
Yeah.
Like I am actually setting up one with interviews with another team at the brokerage that's in the market because they do what she needs.
Right.
And, in the beginning it sounds really great. They're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And then they realize the reality, and sometimes that's just not who they are, and that's
Right.
okay.
Right.
Right? Like I know who I am really well at this point, and I'm not that leader either.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been a fantastic discussion. Marissa, it's always a pleasure to do these with you. I think
Thank
that
you.
if we can execute on managing our agents well, we're going to thrive in a way that kind of sets us apart and really puts us back in control of our business to where we can actually have the flexibility to run our business the way that we want to, instead of being dependent on the market or interest rates or whatever's going on. It really does put you in a position where you're running the show again, and I'm just really grateful for Maverick to be able to help us to accomplish that. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Marissa, always a pleasure. Have a great rest of your day, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you again real soon. All
I was
right,
going to say,
thanks.
we don't go very long. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks.
Bye,
All right, bye.
everyone. Thank you.